Hello everyone, in this lesson, let's see how to solve problems associated with Pythagorean theorem. Let's look at this problem. Are the triangles given below right triangles? Explain how you know. So how do you know that these two triangles are right triangles? To verify this, we need to use Pythagorean theorem, which says that a square plus b square should give us c square. So now let's check it out for the first triangle. Let's say that this is A, this is B, and this hypotenuse C. Now let's see how much is A square plus B square. Since A is 12, so A square means 12 square, B square means 5 square. 12 square is 144 plus 5 square is 25. 144 plus 25 is 169. Now let's see how much is c square. C square is 13 square, which is 169. Since 169 is equals to 169, or since a square plus b square is equals to c square, therefore this triangle is a right triangle. Now let's check for the second triangle. Let this be A, let this be B, and let this be C. Now let's see how much is A square plus B square. Since A is 8, so A square means 8 square, B square is 2 square. 8 square is 64, 2 square is 4, 64 plus 4 is 68. Now let's see how much is c square. So c square is 10 square, which is 100. Since 64 is not equals to 100, or a square plus b square is not equals to 100 in this case, therefore this triangle is not a right triangle. Now let's see this problem. Find the value of x in the triangle below. Since this is a right triangle, therefore a square plus b square should be equals to c square. So let this be a, let this be b, and let this be c. So now let's substitute everything. A square is 8 square, b square is 6 square, and c square is x square. 8 square is 64, 6 square is 36, which is equals to x square. 64 plus 36 is 100, which is equals to x square. Now we just want x on this side and we don't want this exponent. So to remove this exponent, put square root on both sides of the equation. So square root of 100 is equals to the square root of x square. Square root of 100 is 10, and this exponent 2 and the square root gets cancelled, which gives us x. So x equals to 10 centimeter. So this x is 10 centimeter. Another problem, find the missing side lengths of the triangles given below. Since both the triangles are right triangles, therefore a square plus b square should be equals to c square. Let's solve for the first triangle. Let this be A, let this be B, and let this be C, which is hypotenuse in this case. So A square is 8 square, B square is x square, and C square is 17 square. 8 square is 64 plus x square equals to 17 square is 289. Now we just want x on the side of the equation and nothing else. So let's remove this 64 from the side. To do so, we have to subtract 64 on both sides of the equation. So 64 minus 64 plus x square equals to 289 minus 64. 64 minus 64 is 0, so x square equals to 289 minus 64 is 225. Now let's remove this exponent 2 by putting square root on both sides of the equation. So square root of x square equals to square root of 225. Now this exponent 2 and square root get cancelled. So x equals to square root of 225 is 15. So x equals to 15 centimeter. So this is 15 centimeter. Let's solve the value of x for the second triangle. Let this be A, let this be B, and let this be C. So A square plus B square is equals to C square. A square is 8 square, B square is x square, and C square is 10 square. 8 square is 64 plus x square, 10 square is 100. Now let's remove this 64 from this side of the equation by subtracting 64 on both sides of the equation. So 64 minus 64 plus x square is equals to 100 minus 64, which gives us x square equals to 100 minus 64. 100 minus 64 is 36. Now let's remove this exponent 2 by putting square root on both sides of the equation. So square root of x square is equals to the square root of 36. Exponent 2 and square root get cancel out. So x is equals to square root of 36 is 6. So the value of x is 6 centimeter. Now let's look at a word problem. David is flying a kite with 100 meters of string. Ryan stands directly under the kite 60 meters from David. How high is the kite above Ryan? So this is the rough sketch of the problem. David is here, who is flying a kite, flying this kite with 100 meters string. And Ryan, his friend, is here, who is 60 meters apart from David, but right under the kite. The question is asking us to find the height or the distance between Ryan and the kite. Since this form a right triangle, so a square plus b square should be equals to c square. Now let this be a, let this side be b, and let this be c. A square means 60 square, b square means as it is, and c square means 100 square. 60 square is 3600 plus b square equals to 100 square is 10,000. Since we just want the value of b on this side of the equation, so first thing first, we want to remove this 3600 from here. To do so, subtract 3600 from both sides of the equation, which is 3600 minus 3600 plus b square is equals to 10,000 minus 3600. This gives us b square equals to 10,000 minus 3,600 is 6,400. Now let's remove this exponent 2 by putting square root on both sides of the equation. So square root of b square equals to square root of 6,400. This gets cancelled out. So b equals to square root of 6,400 is 80. So b is 80 meter, which means the kite is 80 meter above Ryan. Now let's look at the last problem for this lesson. A ladder descends 2 meters from a point 10 meters away. How long is the ladder? So this is a rough sketch for the problem. Now this is a ladder which is leaned against this 2 meter wall, and the ground distance between the ladder and the wall is 10 meters. And we are asked to find the length of the ladder. since this situation forms a right triangle, so a square plus b square should be equals to c square. Let this be a, let this be b, and let this be c. So substitute everything in the equation. A square means 10 square, b square is 2 square, which is equals to c square. 10 square is 100 plus 2 square is 4, which is equals to c square. 100 plus 4 is 104, which is equals to c square. So now let's remove this exponent 2 from here by putting square root on both sides of the equation. So square root of 104 is equals to the square root of c square. The square root of 104 is approximately equals to 10.19, equals to, this gets cancelled out, and c. So the length of the ladder is 10.19 meter. I hope this lesson helps you all.